answer in between too, Hey everybody, we are live. Welcome to another business panel here. Bethany Baptist Church, the Transformation Church of New Jersey. So glad you guys can join us this evening as we continue to help business owners, help people in life in general, but also specifically for this, business owners, those who want to be in business, those who are in business. Tonight, we're going to teach you how to be legit, how to have all your paperwork and stuff together. So you're not doing it half and running into issues. So glad you guys can come on this evening. We want to give people some time to come on, and as you're coming on, of course, please share if you can, and let people know that we are on this evening as we continue to help you guys with your business. Last month we did. Reverend Rich, we did the
how to write a business plan.
Last month, how to write a business plan. This month, we're doing legal and insurance. I believe next month, we're doing some other things and a whole series of lessons to help you guys get your business started and have it work out good. If you have any questions, of course, you can put them in the comments section, and we will have a team of people to help you all get into it. So we're going to do some brief introductions, and then we're going to get into our conversation. I'm Pastor Nick. Many of you know. Of course, we have Reverend Rich, one of the assistants to the pastor. Below me is Todd Riddick, a lawyer, as well as now doing real estate now.
Absolutely. Yes.
I'm sure less stress of representing people.
Much more enjoyable.
Right.
Much more freedom.
Yeah, much more freedom. And I'm sure all that legal knowledge has helped him in the real estate business too.
For sure.
To know all those things. So we want to welcome him. He'll share more about himself.
Thank you for having me.
Sure thing. And then Mike Bermudez from Braddock Agency. He is our direct representative here at the church for all of our insurance needs. They do commercial, personal. Braddock, again, does the insurance here for the church. They also do my personal insurance too. They have a personal side. Every facet. I've been recommending people to Braddock, and they've been saving people money.
Words.
All the time on their car insurance, home insurance, as well as, of course, helping us with the commercial property. So again, you guys please share. We got some people coming on. Comment, and then ask your questions. We'll be here monitoring them and presenting them. Reverend Rich, you can take it over. I'll just be here for support.
Thank you. Thank you, Pastor Nick. We always appreciate you joining and the support of the BPA. And certainly, as Pastor Nick said, on behalf of Bishop David Evans himself, the entire Bethany family, and the Business Professionals Association leadership team, which is Sisters Deborah Dickerson, Sister LaWanda Combs, Sister Jane Ellen Miller, we at the Bethany Business Professionals Association are here to bring you things to help you in your business. As Pastor Nick said, we first had how to do a business plan. We're now going to talk about the legal and insurance aspects of being in business. Next month, we're going to talk about funding and finance. And in April, we're going to wrap this particular session up with social media and marketing for your business. So we're trying to bring you things that will be applicable to the things that you're going to be addressing with respect to each of your business. So as Pastor Nick said, tonight we have Mr. Michael Bermudez and Mr. Todd Riddick. We're going to give them a couple minutes just to tell you about themselves and what it is that they've been doing. And then we'll jump right into the questions. Please come on in. As Pastor Nick said, please share. Let folks know we're here. Tell them to bring their pens and pencils, write down their questions, and write down the things that we're going to talk about tonight. So, Michael, you want to tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into insurance?
Sure. Well, oddly enough, I'm a graduate of Rutgers University. I actually have a master's degree in exercise science and physiology. So don't ask me how I got into insurance, right? Most people fall into insurance. That's what happens. But I've been in insurance for 15 years. We do all facets, like Pastor Nick said. We do life and health. All the simple liabilities, general liability, workers' comp, property, as well as benefits. And my specialty is on the P&C side, the property and casualty side, which is taking care of, like I said, general liability, workers' comp, property, auto, if that's needed. But the Braddock Agency, we've been around since 1923, so a little bit of experience there. And we have access to all markets. But really, what we really like to call ourselves is risk managers, because a lot of people who have insurance and don't really understand the gist of what it is they have or what their insurance, covers. They think by making a call and getting business insurance in place that they have everything that they need, which, what we really try to do is, one, dumb it down so it's easy to learn, because insurance is fast moving and can be very confusing. So a lot of literary in there that, can really confuse folks. So we just want to make it simplified for you, make sure your business is covered properly, and, make it as fun as possible. That's key, because not the most fun business, but we try to make it fun.
Necessary.
We try to make it fun.
It's necessary business.
You know what? Well said. It's a necessity. And and you had mentioned something about business plan from one of your prior meetings. And I always tell people that you always got to make sure that you allocate those funds in your business plan, a small percentage that has to be for your insurance costs, because, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself with our meeting here, but, in the event of some kind of lawsuit or claim, you can spend a whole lot of money quickly. So,
amen. And take you down real quick, and take you down and out of business real quick, right?
Correct. So the fraction of, a lot of people. So the best thing to say is, we want to save you as much money as possible, but you can't be cheap when it comes to your insurance. It's like you can't drive a Ferrari and have Volkswagen insurance.
Amen. Amen.
It's just got to be done right.
Amen. Well, thank you, Michael. Appreciate that. We'll come right back to you in a minute.
Thank you for
Mr.
having
Todd
me as well.
Riddick, you're welcome. And thank you for taking the time to be with us tonight. So we really appreciate your time.
No problem.
And Todd Riddick, Mr. Riddick, tell us a little bit about you. I've known you for a while, but tell us a little bit about your background in law and what you're doing today.
First of all, thank you guys for having me on the panel this evening. I really appreciate it. I'm a local product, grew up in the Voorhees area, went on to college at University of Delaware, graduated University of Delaware in 1993, and for some reason decided to go on to law school. So I went to law school, graduated from Seton Hall Law School in 1996. And moved down to Washington, D.C., where from 96 to 2007, 2008, I practiced commercial litigation for a few firms down in the D.C. area. And in 2007, moved my family back here to South Jersey, decided I didn't want to practice law anymore, and started my own real estate development company. I don't advise this, but I had a little bit of money in my 401k, and I snatched it all out, and that was my seed money to get my business started. And I've been doing real estate development since 2008. I've worked for myself since then. I enjoy it tremendously, and so yeah, that's pretty much my background.
Well, thank you, Todd. Let's jump right into it. And again, if you have a question, please post it for us, and we'll try to get to it. So Todd, tell us when you're going into business for yourself, and I'm gonna throw the same question to you, Michael, after Todd finishes. When you're going into business for yourself, what are the legal concerns or the legal questions you need to answer initially? Absolutely.
Well, protecting your assets and taxes are really the primary considerations. So what that really ostensibly relates to is, what type of business structure are you going to form? There are several different types of structures. You have a sole proprietor, you have a LLC, you have a limited liability partnership, you have limited partnerships. If you're a nonprofit, you can be a 501c3. So really, that's really the first step, is deciding how you want to structure your business, how you want to pay your taxes, and how much exposure you want for your personal assets.
Okay, thanks, Tyler. We're going to come back because we're going to have to break each one of those down so we understand.
Oh, okay.
I want to talk about that. Yeah.
Which one is which, and which one is best? And Michael, the same question to you. If you're starting a business, what are some of the insurance needs that you need to address early on?
Well, with insurance, all of it is a little different, all depending on the type of business that it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
But insurance is typically broken down into your general liability, which in our industry is known as like your slip and fall. To break it down for you, you got your property, which is your premises liability or building, comp, which is your workers' compensation in the event that someone gets hurt while on duty, right, or at work. And then you have your commercial auto, which is simply what that is. And then you have a bunch of other forms, professional liability, which, something that Todd had when he was an attorney. I may still have at some point, but professional liability covering your professional opinion, what I have as an insurance broker. EPLI, which is employment practices liability, which is wrongful termination in the event that you can't fire someone because of their religious belief or ethnicity, that kind of thing. So the key is that when you have a business, and really where a broker can help is all depending on that business, whether it's a restaurant, retail, trucking, house flipper like Todd himself, or a church like Bethany, the need is a little different. All depending on what type of business it is. And we would guide you on what exactly it is that you'll need for that particular business. But it really all starts with your general liability, which is your base insurance for your business.
Thank you for that. And can we dig a little bit deeper? So certainly
Sure.
within our professional association, we have people that have their own kind of food business, right?
Sure.
They may be in the food business. They
Sure.
may be in the clothing business.
Yep.
They may be in the real estate business, like Todd.
Right.
Those are some of the general businesses that we see prominently within the church, and
Yep.
most of those folks there may be a 1 or 2 person show, and maybe
Yep.
some are a little bit broader. So what do you just talked about the general liability? Can you really jump in a little bit deeper and say, what does that do, and what if you don't have it?
Okay. Well, let's hope that you don't have it, because that's also general liability is going to assume also defense costs in the event of an actual lawsuit. Okay. That's what those limits mean. So your general liability, I'll break it down for you pretty simply. When most people have a general liability policy, they'll have what's called their aggregate limit, which is the maximum amount the insurance will pay out over the course of a year. And that's typically for a business is a $2 million aggregate. They can go as high as $4 million, but it's typically $2 million. Then you have your each occurrence limit, which is the maximum that they'll pay out for any one claim. Okay. So those are your standard general liability limits. And most of the time it's in the event, I can use like a car rental business, for example. If I go to rent a car and I'm on the premises of that parking lot, and while walking to the car to check it out, I slip and fall. That's a general liability claim, right? So that's why they call it slip and fall. Most of your claims wind up being general liability, by the way. Like say a senior citizen slips at a supermarket. That's a slip and fall claim. Those are the things that people get sued for the most, is on premises stuff like that. Restaurants, same thing. Someone slips and falls because of they were picking up food, and on the way out, the floor had just gotten mopped, and that's a general liability, right?
No, go ahead.
No, please go ahead. I
was going to say, okay, so say I make pies.
Very
good. Pastor Nick has had my pie before,
I like pie.
And if I'm out delivering pies, I'm making them in my kitchen or something. I don't have and I go and somebody gets sick from my pie,
right?
What should I have done if I don't have any insurance? Is there anything in particular that I should be doing or should have done?
Well, in a case like that, it's tough because that's considered like you're completed out, where you bake the pie, you deliver it, they ate it, and someone got sick from it, right? If it's off premises, like it wasn't done in your restaurant, meaning if someone came in, they sat down for a meal in your restaurant, got sick on premises, that's a much easier lawsuit, right? Because they were in premises, but you're delivering something into their home. It's almost like it's done, it's paid for, it's there. That's a very tough lawsuit. That's a very tough lawsuit.
Okay.
I think that it would have to be something really catastrophic to happen to someone, and more importantly, to prove it. It's tough. That's tough. But in that sense, I mean, of course you still want to have it, but if you're delivering food, then you got to have commercial auto coverage.
Okay.
Now you're using your vehicle for commercial use.
Okay.
Michael, quick question for you. Would if you have a homeowner's policy, would that kick in if you have like an umbrella policy or something like that, or would that not
Not necessarily, because if you're home, so that's a twofold question. You can have a business.
I'm thinking about the question that just came across. I don't know if you see that question.
You see the question on the front, Mike?
Yeah.
Do you need insurance?
Got it.
Yeah.
All depending what that business is, because again, you're not doing. You mentioned about being a sole proprietor. You can still be sued that way, right? So if you're Mike Bermuda's home cooked pies, and I'm cooking them at home, you can still write off part of your home business as square footage of your home as a business.
Right.
So I wouldn't recommend that, because in the event of a lawsuit, a good attorney is going to go after your personal assets
first.
Right.
So I would never recommend. I always recommend separating.
Right.
Someone's, when they, I never recommend doing that.
Okay.
Can I throw something in there on that? Because a lot of accountants will ask the question, how much can you write off from your house? And nobody ever thinks about that other side of it. So they just start writing off everything and never consider the legal aspects of it.
Sure.
I think this is why we're having this panel, y'all. So if I can say it like this, we're not doing business ghetto.
That's right. That's right.
I would much rather you talk to somebody like a lawyer or insurance person to tell you all the things you don't know. Because what we just found out recently, the state of New Jersey just changed their employment laws, and it didn't really filter down to the businesses yet. So you have to have somebody that knows all the changes.
So they can let you know.
So they can let us know what's going on, because we had no clue. I mean, it didn't affect us bad, but we had no clue at all that they made these changes. And we're like, how come the state never said nothing about these changes? I guess it was just on the website, and they expect people to go and know what's going on.
Right. Yeah. Right.
That's a really good point. And maybe we can jump into that in terms of how to point somebody in the right direction. Certainly they can come to you, Michael, for their insurance.
No doubt.
Would like to say that Chef Joe has joined us, the Abundant Harvest catering services that he runs, and certainly previously of the Melange Cafe, which many of us have frequented when he had that. And we wanted to make sure that he was able to come on and talk to folks that are in the food business about some of the things they need to address. So thanks for joining, Chef. Todd, the next question's coming to you. Break down at least a couple of those definitions that you were talking about. The ones you brought up: sole proprietorship versus LLC versus LLC. Break down some of those definitions. So everybody, get your pens out and your paper. Write these down.
Absolutely. So I guess the most basic business structure would be a sole proprietorship, and that would be someone, I guess for illustration, someone is just starting out a business at home. Baking pies. If Rich's pie business is probably going to be a sole proprietorship, and essentially, as a sole proprietorship, you don't have to actually officially do anything. There's no paperwork to be filed with the state or with the federal government. You just operate your business as normal. However, the negative of that is you expose your personal life, your personal assets. So if I get sick from Rich's pie, I'm going to sue Rich, and I'm coming after your bank and your checking account and your savings accounts. And there's not a buffer there to protect you. And typically sole proprietorships, I recommend those for people who are, kind of testing the water out. Maybe this was your first pie, Rich, and it didn't go well for you. So you figure you're going to fine tune things before you actually get into the pie making business. So
so that's sole proprietorship. And what's the next tier then?
Next tier from there would be, I would say, a limited liability partnership.
Is that an LLP or is it just
an LLP? LLP, and then you also have a limited partnership. So the LLPs are typically you find in professional associations, whether it be a law firm or an accounting firm. Typically, there are partners who all share in the the liability of the firm. So the difference between a limited partnership and a limited liability partnership. A limited partnership has one general partner, and then it has a bunch of other partners. And the general partner assumes the brunt of the liability, whereas the other partners have limited liability, hence the name limited liability partnership. And there's a partnership agreement that governs that relationship. Who gets how much money, who's responsible for, for whatever, debts and things of that nature. And then you have limited partnership and then limited liability partnership. That's where basically all the partners share in the liability of the partnership. Everyone is on a sort of a level, even playing field. And they all share, the same, burdens and benefits of that partnership.
So let me ask a quick question before you go on to the LLC and the S Corp and what have you. So Michael, and this may be a stupid question, do the insurance needs
no stupid questions
different? Are they different if I have a general, a sole proprietorship, a limited partnership, or limited liability? Are they different for those different aspects of businesses that I'm in?
Only in respect to workers' comp.
Okay.
So with workers' comp, when you are a limited liability company in the state of New Jersey, as an owner, your payroll as the owner does not have to be included in the comp. Mm-hmm. When you are a corporation, by law, you have to be included at least the minimum that the state will require. Each state is different. New Jersey, Delaware, Philly, it's all different. The minimum in the state of New Jersey now is somewhere around 40,000. It's like minimum payroll that they'll let you, but that's how it affects your comp. And just like I said, from like Todd, clearly laid out, outside of protecting, your personal assets, right? So okay. Liability coming and such, but only from a workers' comp standpoint.
Okay, great. Mm-hmm. So to that point, let's bring Chef in here. So Chef, whether it's when you had Melange or now, how did you manage your legal needs and your insurance needs?
Well, I definitely had an accountant. I had several accountants. And one thing I would always suggest to everyone that's getting ready to go into business, make sure that your relationship with your accountant and your attorney and your insurance company are all intertwined and they all are communicating on the same page. I had an S Corp, and what I found was my accountant did not know my attorney. So my attorney drew up papers on specific leases that really didn't apply to the numbers that I was trying to produce. And when my accountant saw them, they didn't make sense. Then the relationship soured with the accountant. So then the numbers really got lost in the shuffle of switching over accountants and then switching over attorneys. Mm-hmm. I went through some tax issues. It's well known, but I can tell you now, when I look back on it, if I had a tax attorney at that time, which I did not, I probably would have been in a better situation to deal with the debt that was thrown at me. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people go in with this idea they can bring in their friend as an accountant, they can bring in their friend as an attorney, they can bring in their uncle's insurance agency. It doesn't work like that. Mm-hmm. You can lose everything so fast.
Yeah. So it sounds like, and tell us that this has been your experience, Michael and Todd, that, if I'm in business for myself, mm-hmm. and if I have an accountant and a lawyer, my legal and my insurance person, and I don't know who else I may need, but that at some point we should all be able to sit around the table. Absolutely. So we know what each other is doing. What has been your experience? What have you seen, Michael? What have you seen, Todd, to that extent?
Todd, you can go ahead.
Wow. From a personal anecdote, I have an accountant, and my accountant and my lawyer don't really, for my specific industry, they really don't need to kind of come together. Typically, when I get a lawyer involved, I am either drafting an agreement, or most recently I had to force someone to sell me a property. I was under contract to buy a property, and this person tried to back out at the last second, and I had to, get my lawyer involved to write a bunch of nasty letters back, and within a month we, eventually made it to closing. But my accountant and I are extremely intimate because, as a business owner, I want to protect as much of my income as possible, without, sort of, balancing the law. And, but that's just for my industry. Your industry may be different, Michael.
Well, in insurance, for sure, accounting and legal is very tightly intertwined. In fact, the president of our company is an attorney of my insurance firm. And the reason I say that is because there's a lot of times where there's legal documentation in terms of how, like, a lease may be drawn up or rental agreement, those kinds of things that are all legal documents that I have to view the insurance section of that legal document. That's all I worry about is, my field of expertise is the insurance section. So typically a client of mine will send me the insurance section of their legal document, right? So we can make sure that all the I's and T's are crossed, if you will, for everything that they need, whether they're a tenant or they're buying a building, real estate transaction, whatever the case may be. We make sure that they have everything that they need for the bank, for the landlord, for the car lot. It all depends on who it is. And so it's very tightly intertwined that way. From a tax standpoint, insurance, there's a lot of auditing that happens. A lot of audits that happen on an annual basis, especially when it comes to your comp. And the bigger the company, if the company is driven off of sales, there's a lot of audits. So we do have to work hand in hand sometimes with the accountant, although, again, that's the accountant's expertise. But we come in with how the insurance policy was written and making sure that the audit made sense, that the audit was correct, so that way all the numbers that we fact find can then go to the accountant, and the accountant can then black and white it, if you will, make sure that it's just very clear and concise. But it's very closely intertwined in my business.
Okay.
Can I ask a question to actually to all of you? It seems like you're saying, when the business is starting off, when you talked about sole proprietorship, you may not require as much. When you're, and Chef, you can probably jump on this too. So when you're planning your business, you start small. Do you build for where you're going early, or do you just kind of take it step by step and say, at this phase, I need this amount of legal and accounting, and then I'll add to it as we go? How do you plan for, I hope I'm saying it right. How do you plan for the inevitable growth and the needs that you're going to have legally, insurance wise, and accounting wise? Take us through that progression.
I could say, me personally, when doing my business plan, I built the business plan. I looked at the big picture. So if I was projecting for $20,000 and I needed to have a certain amount of professional help involved to get there, and I'm just using $20,000 as a number, I made sure I had the right people in the places that could help me get there.
All right.
Now, my big picture might have been $100,000. Let's just say for a week, a month, or whatever. I knew I had to have a certain type of accountant, a certain type of attorney that had the back work people that were there to support it. So I didn't want to just hire Joe Brown on the corner that's an accountant, but he only has himself doing the work. Because as you all know, when you get audited, they want those papers ASAP. They don't want them 2 months from now. And I'll give you a quick story. I got a labor audit brought up to me, and I was so thankful that I had an accountant and I had a payroll company that were communicating together and had all my records in order. Wow. They sat in my restaurant for 2 days going through 7 years of labor, and it was only supposed to be 5, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep.
And what the audit was is that one of my employees, there was an increase in the hourly wage. It was like 10 cents. And one of my employees complained to the labor board that they were being underpaid.
Wow.
All right. When all was said and done, I owed the employee, it might have been $100. And he was the only one employee that didn't get the increase. It was a misstep from the payroll company. He missed this one person. Mm-hmm. I could have been sued for the interest and everything to pay this employee. Right? Mm-hmm. Come to find out, the labor board told me he needed to produce the paperwork and pay this employee. So the employee was trying to collect all this money that he really wasn't entitled to. Right. And the only reason why I knew that is because the payroll company was communicating with my accountant. My accountant got a hold of my attorney. We were back and forth, and finally it got down to the bottom line. It wasn't even that much money.
Yeah, but it could have been a lot worse if you didn't have.
If I didn't have the right people. Folks. So my planning was to make sure I had the right people that saw the big picture with me. A lot of people go in and they go in with a small picture and they say, okay, we're only going to do baby steps. Get here. Well, what happens when you get real big?
Right.
Are you ready for it?
Are you ready for it? Chef said that he had, let's get a couple more definitions in while we can. Chef said that he had an S Corp. Can you define an S Corp for us, Todd?
Yeah, an S Corp it's very similar to what a C corporation is or regular corporation. So a regular corporation is, it offers you the highest level of protection of your personal assets. However, the negative of the corporation is that you have to pay taxes. You pay corporate taxes, and depending on how your corporation is structured, you may have to pay dividends or taxes on your dividends. So it can be expensive. The S Corp, which Chef had, is structured a little different. It's almost similar to a limited liability company in the sense that it allows for you to pass through to your personal taxes. So you don't pay a corporate tax. It flows, the profits and losses flow through to your personal taxes. So from a tax perspective, a S Corp can be more beneficial.
Okay. Hope you all are writing that down. You mentioned about the dividends. Some folks may not know what you meant when you said that. You want to expound a bit on that, or you want to leave that?
That's a good question. Well, a dividend is what a company pays to its shareholders in profit. So
that's right. That's right.
Yeah. So that you have to pay taxes.
So you have to pay taxes if your business does well, and you have investors in your business. Then the shareholders get a piece of that profitability because you've done well, and then they pay a dividend to you. Some of you see that in your 401ks. You get dividends that are reinvested in your 401ks. And I guess Todd and Michael and Chef and Pastor Nick, you will all agree. There's no reason for folks to be overwhelmed by having to get the legal stuff done or the insurance stuff done. That's why we have professionals that do that. But don't say, "Oh my God, I don't know what they're talking about." I don't have to do that.
On that note, though, I'm sure the three of you have heard about this, where the person that owned the business didn't pay attention to what the accountant and lawyer was doing until something came up.
Sure.
And then the owner is still responsible because they weren't checking in. And I oftentimes have people who start a business, they just kind of let their lawyer and accountant just do whatever. And I just want to run the business and you guys take care of all the back end stuff.
That happened to me. I can give you a very clear story. So I'm busy. So when I first opened, I had a lot going on. I was trying to get the cookbook out. I really was just making sure bills were getting paid the best way I could, but I was touring, doing book signings. And I'll never forget, I was in the restaurant doing a photo shoot for the book, and the state walked in and said, "We're here to collect taxes." And they just looked at me, and I said, "What are you talking about?" They said, "Well, you owe this much." Wow. And I looked at them, and I said, "Give me a minute." I called my accountant up. I said, "Can you tell me what's going on?" He said, "Just send them to me." Just send them to me. He says, "Tell him to send a letter to me." And I said, "Okay." Little did I know, there was quarterly taxes that we know have to be paid. There's that 20th of the month. Every 20th of the month, taxes got to be paid. We were missing quarters, and I had to come up with like $10,000.
Quick.
And it was like there was no waiting for it. So, that was the end of that account. Missing quarters because he was procrastinating, delaying, shifting, moving around, taking his time. And I'm thinking things are being taken care of. So as you said, you have to be in your hands in everything. You can't just be a business person. If you're in a restaurant business, you just can't be just a chef.
Yep.
Right.
Dishwasher, you have to be an accountant, you have to be a bookkeeper, you have to be a host, a server. There's so many things that are involved in running a business, not just the restaurant business, but every business.
Right.
Chef, quick question for you. Do you, in hindsight, do you think the S Corp was the best structure for your business?
I don't think so, because I took on too much. I think there was too much that fell back on me personally.
Yeah.
And you mentioned earlier, I probably should have went C Corp.
Right.
And maybe limited liability. When I look back on it, the amount of revenue that I was driving in such a short period of time, and I wasn't smart enough at that time to understand everything that was really best for me.
Right.
That's why I say now to anybody who's trying to go into business, make sure you get the best people that have the best interest.
People that are smarter than I'm a firm and fervent believer of creating a team of people that are smarter than me. And I'm not an accountant, so.
And that's what real fast.
And that's also why when you're putting this business plan together, when you're putting this vision together for what your business is, you've looked at the product, you've looked at the market, you've looked at how you're going to put it together, you've looked at your team. You have to look at those. You have to look at the bucket of those things that we're talking about tonight, and those things that we're going to talk about in the upcoming months. What are my insurance needs? What are my accounting needs? What are my legal needs? And you might not need all that stuff at the same time, but you have to know that these are also boxes that I need to check as I'm putting this business in place. Okay.
So I do have a question in the comments. You want to go there, or you want to?
Yeah, no, go ahead, please.
All right. Let's go. Me wants to know. I started 2 LLCs last summer. Haven't launched, so I have absolutely no profit at this point. Just expenses. Do I include them when I file taxes for 2020?
But if he has no profit, the question is, does he have a loss?
Yeah.
Right. Certainly, if he has losses, he wants to include that because he's going to get a tax benefit for those losses that he had.
Yes, precisely.
And if he made money and he's not claiming that he did make money, he's going to have a tax liability for not disclosing that.
Because there's this big thing now to tell everybody go get an LLC now, so they can get the tax incentives. You ain't got no real business, but you got an LLC though.
Right. Well, and there are people that do that. People who start businesses just to be able to write off losses for 4 or 5 years, and again, from a tax perspective, it kind of makes sense, but that's not you eventually it'll eventually catches up.
That's what I'm going to say. Eventually, it's going to catch up.
I think you have to keep corporation somewhat active, so that it appears that it's a business.
Correct.
If you go 2 or 3 years without showing any reporting of anything, that's a red flag.
Right.
It's a red flag automatically. So you have to show that you're operating under this tax ID number that you have.
Yep.
Or I can tell you now, they'll come knocking on your door.
Yep. And that's the same thing with a 501c3, right?
Absolutely.
Because I had a 501c3, and whatever fundraisers we did on an annual basis, we still had to make sure that we documented and kept track of all those funds that we gained, that we received, and how we then dispersed those funds. You know, that we weren't dispersing those funds to take vacation or what have you, so that we didn't have any liability associated therewith.
And here's
you have another
thing. It's harder to dissolve a corporation than it is to start a corporation. A lot of people don't know this, and I can give you stories right now of me trying to dissolve my corporation. They didn't want to hear anything about it.
And I imagine you're you know, because you got to pay whatever debts and liabilities, and you got to.
They don't want to talk to you.
Yeah. You got another question there, Pastor Nick?
Yeah.
Mike.
Yeah, Mike. What's the best insurance to have on a nonprofit business? Do nonprofits and for-profits have a different type, or is all the same?
A little different. No, it's a little different in terms of the need. But again, insurance is all about the risk. It's all about what the risk is. So, you know, from a restaurant to a nonprofit to an attorney to a gas station to a retail shop, it's all going to be a little different because the risk is a little different, right? So in terms of do they need specific insurance in terms of them operating as a nonprofit? Not necessarily. They're going to still have all the same business needs. Really, the nonprofit comes in more on the tax side, the accounting side, how they file. But from an insurance standpoint, they're going to still need all the basic necessities for their premises, for their operations. So general liability, property, all that is pretty much the same. Okay. It just wavers all depending on the type of risk.
Okay. Because one person asked about if you have an LLC or limited liability, do you need to purchase business insurance? But you're saying it's basically based off what you're doing.
Yeah, but you should. Yeah, I mean, if you have an LLC, sole proprietorship, you always need business insurance.
Yeah.
Period. And more now these days, you're going to find that because there's so many lawsuits happening, that you're going to get people who aren't even going to let you step foot in their house, even to just do home repairs without an insurance certificate in hand.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just going to happen. So, and no one should do that. I mean, if you have a electrical contractor come into your house, to fix outlets, they should give you a certificate of liability naming you as the additional insured for the time that they're in your home. Because if that fire happens, you don't want it to fall on your homeowners. You want it to fall on his insurance because the fire was caused by his work. So remember, I just want to say something earlier. Todd kind of and Chef brought this, made me think about this. You always want to think about insurance in terms of transferring liability. And the biggest example I'll give to people is if I'm a general contractor of a big job, and let's just say I'm the money, and I'm the guy that buys the property. Todd may know this because he's flipping houses. But I hire a drywall guy, HVAC, electrician, plumber, concrete guy. All of those guys are going to issue me certificates of liability, naming me as the additional insured because I'm transferring liability to those guys that I hired. I'm not doing the work. They are. So now I transfer that liability to you. So how I protect myself as the GC from a legal standpoint is saying, hey, I got certificates of liability here. I am the money on this job. I hired him. Here's his insurance certificate. He's the guy that was at fault on this particular job. More than likely, the GC is going to be pulled into a lawsuit by a good attorney. They're going to pull everyone in, but the chances of him being fully liable for it is very minimal if he did everything he's supposed to in terms of getting all the certs and all that. So my point is that everyone has to have insurance. And to Todd's point, if you start as a sole proprietorship, if you start small and you find yourself starting to grow pretty quickly, step out of that and get yourself to that next level. Limited liability company, because remember, the more you grow, the more you have to lose. That's just a very simple way to put it, right? The more you grow, the more you have to lose. If you have a bigger home, your homeowner's insurance is going to be larger because you have a better home, right? You drive a fancier car, same thing. It's the same thing with your business. If your business expands, you're bringing in more money, you're doing more, you have more to lose. Pretty simple.
That's great. That was really a good. I hope folks are listening because they're getting some knowledge that they're getting tonight. They'd have to go and pay somebody for. We are. Go ahead, Pastor.
I'm so sorry. Just one thing I wanted to say too. not to take anything away from Todd, because I know as an attorney, when you get those services, you got to pay that sweet retainer. Sorry, Todd.
No,
Right?
I pay them all the time, and I hate it.
I know it. Me too. Well, this is what I'll tell you from an insurance standpoint. For anybody who has never gone after get business insurance before, that's a free service. Mm-hmm. You don't have to pay upfront costs. There's no fee. Quotes are free. So all the work that we put that in. And Pastor Nick can attest to this. I pride myself on not good service, impeccable service. He knows I answer my phone on Sunday nights. That's how I do it. But the point is that whatever the need is, our job is to get you quotes, and that doesn't cost you a thing. My job is to guide you, make sure you have what you need, and if it happens that it doesn't work out, so be it. But there is no fee for that service.
Yeah. To me, it's better to have a broker that can, like you said, call around to get the best quotes for you.
Right.
To me, when it comes to legal insurance, it's better not to go cheap. To me, because like you said, you want somebody that connects you with the right stuff. Because like you said, if something happens, it can cost you your house, your car, your savings, all those things.
Yeah.
Yep. If you got to spend the extra money to get the best, it's better to do that. On
the front end,
on the front end, then it costs you greater on the back end, especially nowadays with this society. It's the way it is.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, well, we really appreciate. We want to transition to highlighting one of our businesses at the church. We certainly are not asking you all to leave, but we do have Wayman Patterson hanging out and waiting to be entered into the broadcast. He's going to kind of tell us a little bit about what his business is. We try to highlight a Bethany business every at the end of every session for the last few minutes. He also may have some legal or insurance questions for you, Todd and Michael. So if we can let him in, I can see him, but I can't see where to let him. There he is. Hey, Wayne.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm good. How's everybody tonight?
Good. Good. How are you?
Good. It feels like I'm intruding a wealth of knowledge on this call. I got my stuff in order.
Do you have any questions, Wayman, before you jump into what you do for either Michael or Todd?
At this moment, no, but I definitely would utilize them as a resource. As my profession as a realtor, have the ability to leverage each of their relationships for both residential and commercial clients that I come across. So grateful for the opportunity to even be introduced to them. And maybe we can do some business in the near future.
Would love that.
That'd be great.
That's great. And we have what we'd like to do now is have Wayman talk about his business, and Todd and Michael and Chef, if you can hang on a little bit, after he gets through his business, we still have some other questions that maybe we'd like to pose before we end the broadcast, because it looks like we still have some questions there. Is that okay?
Yep.
All right. Well, Wayman, can we get Wayman bigger so he can kind of tell us and maybe show us? He may have to show us some things, but I don't know how to do that. But let's go ahead, Wayman, and tell us about your business.
Awesome. So by day, I am a realtor with Keller Williams Realty. I have been licensed for over 6 years now, where we educate our clients on and hold their hand throughout their entire process, giving them, I always call it the white glove experience, because it's one of the most and probably the biggest transaction that they will ever complete in their life. So what we aim to do is transition them from just customers to actual clients, where we become their realtor for life. And not only selling them a home, we look at this as having a full financial conversation with them, where we even, I partnered with some amazing individuals where we can work on credit as well as financial needs analysis to make sure that our clients are set up for success. Now,
we don't want to be dealing with the bubble that we saw back in 2007 when we had that home of real estate bubble burst. We don't want folks having to deal with that.
Not at all. And we want to prepare them for success and making sure that if life does happen, or like 2020, we had COVID, and who would have ever thought that we would be in a situation, but we prepare them so that they are able to live and thrive even through a pandemic.
So
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. So tell us about, now you had more than one business. I know you did.
So that's why I said, I didn't know which way we were going to go tonight, but coming off the amazing panel that you had, I wanted to, make sure that we got that piece in there. If you look up my name in the dictionary, under entrepreneur, you'll probably see my face. But
tell folks how you got started and, what are some of the hurdles that you've overcome, but then tell them how to get in touch with you about, what your business offerings are.
Absolutely. So I was always thinking about big picture, future, and got my real estate license while working in corporate banking. I was in banking and worked for 2 major banks for over 12 years and enjoyed it. I was right out of high school, making good money, but helping people with their financial situation as well, be prepared for success. And I enjoyed helping small businesses as I was a branch manager. Be prepared and run a successful business. And I had the idea of supplementing my income, went and got my real estate license, and had that transitioned me into becoming a full-time real estate agent. And I always say rejection is direction. We were taught that, So the means by which I got there, we could talk about that at a later time, but I'm excited because the last since 2018, I've been full-time in real estate and I love every aspect of it. But a true passion of mine is fashion. So we want you to be able to look good while you're going out. So the Debonair Man is the name of my clothing line, and we are tailored to your sophistication. So we handle anything from the suit to the shoe. And we have our clients that we dress for occasions, and we had to pivot a little bit with COVID. But we have weddings coming up in March and things of this year. So we have a full-fledged clothing company. We are on all of your social media platforms at The Debonair Man. There's also a website, thedebonairman.com, for all of the real estate needs. And we'll also put this in the chat for you. It's Wayman Patterson Realty.
Okay. That's great, Wayman, and such a wonderful to have you here with us tonight. Can you tell us, maybe some of the hurdles that you had to overcome, whether it was in the real estate side or the fashion side, for folks that are trying to get into, some line of business?
I would say comparison, because comparison, is a thief of your joy. And know that if God gave you a vision, and run with that vision, write it, make it plain, run with that, and stay in your lane. Put the blinders on, focus. There's enough out here for everybody to eat. There's a realtor on every corner, but there will never be a you. So be unique in your proposition and your value add, and ensure that you are being authentic to your true self.
That's so well said, Wayman. We know that everybody has a gift. God's given all of us a gift, and He's also provided us with purpose. And if we can match that gift and purpose together, it can be a help to everyone, and we don't have to feel like we've worked a day in our lives. If we enjoy,
here we are, 7:53 at night.
Exactly. So your clothing line, how do you source your materials? Do you broker other folks' products? Do you have somebody making the specific stuff for you all? How do you do that?
Yep. So we have 2 different parts. So we have one where I actually have a partnership, and I pull from a line where I wholesale, and we pick from this exclusive vendor so that all of our clients can stand out in the crowd, and they can be identified with statement pieces where nobody else will have what they have on. And that's what we pride ourselves in. And we also have a component for custom as well. And we have a custom tailor that we utilize right here in Voorhees, New Jersey, to meet any of your, needs. If there's something that we can't get for you, we can definitely make it for you.
Okay, that's great. So always sharp, always clean, always nice. Wayman, we really appreciate you coming on. Don't go nowhere, because we're gonna bring the rest of the panel back and ask some questions and make sure we see what the people have to say. So welcome back, Todd.
Yep.
Welcome back, Chef, and welcome back, Michael. And thank you, Pastor Nick, for joining us. We know he's a busy guy, so he had to go off to another thing. Just a question. I'm going to show these a couple questions. Let's see if we can address these. So Michael says, And what insurance related costs should be included in a rental lease? I think these are pretty standard agreements, aren't they, Michael?
They are. But what I would make sure that from the renter standpoint, that you make sure you have enough property coverage for your own, your personal property. Make sure that dollar value makes sense, that they just didn't rate you up a policy that was like a standardized, that doesn't actually encompass the value of your goods. Make sure that dollar value makes sense.
Okay. Thank you. I think we answered this question earlier, but I'm going to go back to it if I can pull it up here. Let's see. I'll ask the question. It says, do you need to purchase business insurance even if you have a limited liability company?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a 100% yes. No,
and
if you want to be protected, yes.
Okay, thank you for that. And Chef, while I'm going through some of these other questions, we know that there are a lot of people that get into the food business, and you have a passion around food. What are some of the things that folks need to be mindful of once they foray into the food area?
Oh, I would say first,
in terms of making sure they're protected,
make sure you have your Serve Safe certification so that you're qualified to serve and sell and cook food for someone. That's statewide. It's actually national wide now. Make sure that you're having reputable vendors that have the license to sell food. Certain vendors, especially like shellfish. Seafood purveyors have to have a shellfish license to sell shellfish. You can't just go out and buy shellfish and sell it. There's tags that come with every shellfish, as far as clams and mussels and stuff like that you're supposed to hold on to for 6 months. Make sure your inspections are up to date from the Board of Health through the county. Make sure your inspections are up to date through the state. When you open up any type of food business, you have to have a state inspection first, state health inspection first, before you have your county inspection.
Okay.
They will not let you open. And you can try it, but it won't work.
Okay. Thanks, Chef. Wayman, we got a question here for you. And the question is, Wayman, what is a financial needs analysis and how can I get one?
Absolutely. A financial needs analysis allows us to just review your current financial history as well as projection for the future. So we'll go over your current debt, your income, as well as projected expenses so that when you're ready to retire or even in your current situation, making sure that you're protected from an aspect of insurance as for life and health. In addition to when you're retiring, one of the things that is a pain point of mine is going into a Walmart or Sam's Club and you see an elderly person coming back into the workforce. So setting our clients up for success to make sure that when you retire, you can retire as well as keep the same lifestyle that you're accustomed to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't want folks to be over leveraged. You buy a house and you have more house than money.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You
can't do that.
Car payment, your car payment
won't do that to you.
Car payment more than your mortgage. That's flipped up. That's not supposed to be that way. Right. Here's a question for you, Todd. Let me see. I just saw it. Do you recommend one general lawyer or a team of specific lawyers?
That's a good question. And I learned this in law school. It depends. That's the answer to that question. It really depends on the type of business. It depends on, it depends on your financial situation. A team of lawyers is going to be expensive. You may want to, again, start out by just getting, one, corporate lawyer to to kind of handle all of your needs, or to kind of be like on standby, basically. I have 2 lawyers that I've pretty much, work with extensively. One is more real estate related, transactional. And then I have another guy that's more, litigation centric. So the answer to that question really depends on your financial situation and budget, and what it is you're looking to do.
Okay, thank you, Todd.
Yeah.
I think I've addressed most of the questions that we have in the comments section. Before we close, and before I thank each and every one of you for your time, well, let me do that right now. Thank you each for joining us this evening. Is there any final comments you'd like to leave with our audience this evening before I close with some general announcements? Anyone?
Anyone go first?
Good, Jeff. I'm sorry.
No,
go ahead, Chef.
I was going to say, before you go into business, ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
And ask the person that you admire the most that's doing what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Todd.
I was going to say thank you for having me on the panel, but I kind of am going to piggyback off of what Chef Joe said, in that if you're starting a business, you definitely want to build a team and get advice from people that are smarter than you. I live my life that way. I try to surround myself with people that are smarter than me. So yeah, that would be my advice.
Thank you, Todd, and thank you for joining. Michael.
Yeah, well, I just again piggyback on what the guys were saying. I think it's really important to build. In business, you got to have a good team of minds around you, right? No one can say, hey, I had the answers to everything, because no one does. I know insurance very well, but that doesn't necessarily mean I know real estate that well, or what Chef does that well. I mean, so you have to surround yourself with a good team of folks that you trust, right? That have earned that trust. And I think if you guys build that relationship together, like Todd said, smart folks around you, folks that are smarter than you, got to learn how to humble yourself sometimes and put your pride down and know when to ask for help. And I think that you'll be better set up to succeed in business when you do that. When your ego gets involved, you're going to be set up to fail.
Yeah. Well said, Michael. And Michael, how do folks get in touch with you if they have some insurance needs?
Always. I mean, Pastor Nick, he has every number, including my blood type. But I'd be more than happy to send that over. But I mean, you can get your email, cell phone. I mean, it's the J.S. Braddock Agency. We're based in Medford, New Jersey, but I also have an office on 2nd and Chestnut in Philly. And I do every form of business insurance. There's nothing too small or too big that we can't handle. So I'm really happy to be here with you guys. Thank you.
Michael, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time. And Wayman, you're welcome. Wayman?
Yep. Thank you for the opportunity to showcase what I do to help people prepare for the future, as well as dress well while they do it. Look forward to connecting with each of you. Our information can be found right in the comment section of the chat.
Great.
Thanks, Wayman. And so to all of our panel, thank you very much. To all of our listeners, please join us next month when we'll talk about funding and finance. Our host for the evening will be BPA, one of the BPA leadership, Sister Deborah Dickerson. We're going to talk about funding and finance. We already know we have two guests. One, the executive vice president from the Enterprise Center in Philadelphia and the Philadelphia Minority Business Development Agency, and then one of her colleagues. So we're looking forward to continuing along this line. We told you how to build a business plan. We've talked about legal and insurance needs of a business. We're going to go to funding and finance. And then in April, we're going to talk about social media and marketing, how to market your business through social media and technology. So we're really excited about what we have left to talk about. Please continue to reach out, share what we're doing. We're here every Thursday, third Thursday of the month for the Bethany Business Panel Association. God bless you, God keep you, and we'll see you next time. Take care.
God bless you guys. Thank you.